Hey guys, welcome to my channel. As you can see the thumbnail, what if Issei trained by the Great Red Part 3. Before we start, please do support for more awesome content and subscribe to my channel. Without wasting any time, let's start it. It was the day after Issei's match and Lady Gremory stepped out of her carriage in front of a two-story mansion. Opening the door, a maid bowed as Lady Gremory entered the mansion. Meeting Lady Gremory was a young woman that appeared to be in her teens. She had waist-length black hair, with purple eyes. Lady Gremory, it's an honor to have you visit us. Hello Celine, how have you been? I've been well. Lady Gremory, grandmother is in the study, Celine answered. That's good. Is she any better? No, she still stares into the nothingness. I see. Thank you Celine. I have something to tell you and your grandmother, Lady Gremory told her with a smile. The Vashtanari family was a low-class devil family that served the house of Gremory before the Great War. And when one servant, Issei Vashtanari, died protecting Lady Gremory, out of the kindness of her heart she gave the remaining members of his family the mansion and servants they currently have. Irina Vashtanari and her granddaughter was the last remaining members to their name. Celine's parents died on a mission to kill Issei a few years back. Evidence shows that a fallen angel was at the scene, but his identity is unknown. Irina was sad when her firstborn son and husband died in the Great War, and she fell into despair upon the death of her second son. Lady Gremory entered the study and saw Irina sitting in a leather chair staring at the fire with a blank, empty look in her eyes. Lady Gremory placed her hand on Irina's shoulder and walked in front of her before speaking. Irina. Celine, I have news about your son Issei. She paused and saw no reaction from Irina. A young boy going to the same school in the human world as my daughter claimed to be his son. When Irina heard this, the light started to return to her eyes with the tears, looking at Lady Gremory. We don't know if his claim is true, but this is his picture and the information we have on him so far, Lady Gremory told them as she gave Celine a folder with a picture of Issei attached to the cover. Celine looked at the picture before passing it to her grandmother. Her grandmother covered her mouth to stop the shock that was about to leave her mouth. He looks like my late husband, she told them as her hand touched the picture. I asked my daughter to bring him to the underworld upon her return this summer in the human world. If he really is my blood, I would like to meet him, Irina told Lady Gremory. Yes, we will do a bloodline test when he arrives, Lady Gremory told her before leaving with Celine following behind. When they arrived at the door, Lady Gremory stopped and talked to Celine before leaving. If he really is your cousin, what do you think of joining his peerage? We know he already has a peerage that he acquired, but we don't know who his mother is, Lady Gremory asked her. But what about my service to the house of Gremory? He fought for my daughter's freedom from the marriage to Razor Phoenix and won, so we know he's powerful. I'll send you the recording of that match so you can see him in action, and he did say that he'll help Rias with anything she asks of him, so you'll still be serving the house of Gremory, Lady Gremory told her. Thank you Lady Gremory. Celine replied with a bow as Lady Gremory left the mansion and stepped into her carriage. After Lady Gremory left, Celine looked through the folder that held the information of the person that claims to be her cousin. Her eyes opened in shock as she saw how powerful he was. I hope he really is my cousin, that would make grandmother very happy, she mused while reading the rest of the information in the folder. Hyodo residence. Issei was sitting in the living room with his peerage and was looking at the person who showed up with her luggage, trying to convince him that she should live with him. And how am I gonna explain you to my parents when they return? They were a bit reserved when I told them about my four already, and my mother is gonna question them upon her return, and she's still unsure about you, Issei told her. Why don't you just use magic on your parents to make things less complicated? It's easier than telling a lie, she told him. I understand that, but I'm trying to keep them away from the supernatural as much as possible. I don't want someone attacking them for no reason. How about telling them that part of the truth and part lie? I'm listening. You can tell them that my father built this house as a test house for future houses, and he wants me to stay with you to keep him updated on how you and your family like it until I graduate from high school. That's not bad, bucko. Okay, I'll tell them that. Hey eyes, can you call me Rias from now on? She asked him with a blushing. Sure, I don't see a problem with that, he told her, then left the room to call his parents. The girls already knew what Rias was up to the moment they saw her at the door with her luggage, except Asia, who was still oblivious to such things. They knew she wanted to get into a relationship with their master and savior, even though they all had feelings for him as well. They all felt that with his powers he sensed when they came into his room at night, but never scolded them or ran them out of the room. He showed nothing but love and kindness towards them, and they all loved him for that. Okay, my parents agreed to you staying here, and we'll talk to you girls when they return in 4 days, he told them, returning from his phone call. I guess we should give you a room and have you settled in. Rias walked with Issei to pick out a room. When she saw that a room next to his was available, she picked that one. It was now 2 days since Rias moved into the Hyodo residence. They were now in the clubroom. Asia was out with Kaneko learning how to make a contract. Middle already went with her before the match, and Rainier went out with Kiba, and Kalawarner went with Akano. All who was left in the clubroom that night was Middle, Rias and Issei. Issei had agreed to go with Rias if any of her clients called her. Issei was sitting there talking to Rias when Great Red contacted him through the mind link. "I saw your fight with a Phoenix Devil," he started. "Did you have to go all out on him?" "No, but he was so arrogant and full of himself he didn't realize he was fighting someone superior to him," Issei replied. "I see. Well, the reason I contacted you was because she came by again." "Oh, is she readying to challenging you again?" "Yes, she brought the holder of the Albion with her," he claimed. "After he defeats the holder of Diedrich, he'll challenge." "Will you fight him or ignore him like when you ignored former Dragon King Tannen?" "It depends if he's stronger than you, so, you'll want me to fight him first?" Issei asked. "Yes, but I'm sure whoever you choose to wield Diedrich will have to be defeated by him first." Issei nodded his head mentally through the link, even though no one can see this motion. "Well, whoever I chosen to wield him will need more intense training than my other pieces." Great Red agreed with his statement before continuing. "How is the training with the ones you have?" "Well, since Rias moved into my house, I have to train Asia's angel side in secret so she don't find out," he replied. "Why not just tell her the truth? It's obvious she's starting to have feelings for you." "I know, but the last time I had a girlfriend was back in 1716, and I had to leave her at the River Thames Frost Fair because devils were searching for me." "Yes, that poor girl was heartbroken," Great Red told him. "I was at her funeral. I could tell by the look at her children and grandchildren she lived a fulfilling life." "Well, I'm going back to roll around. All right, bye," he said to Great Red before the mental link got cut off. When Issei looked around the room, he realized that Rias and Middle was looking at him with an unreadable expression on their faces. "Sorry, my uncle contacted me through a mental link, so I was talking to him," he told them. "I see. I would like to meet your uncle whenever you're ready for me to meet him." She paused before continuing as if she remembered something. "I almost forgot, Issei, did you know that you have relatives in the underworld?" "Yes, I always suspected, but I didn't want them to know what I am, so I stayed away." "I see. If your claim about your father is true, then you have a grandmother and cousin who would like to meet you," she told him. "That would be nice, but I don't think it's wise." "Why not? It's a chance to meet someone from your bloodline," Middle asked. "Middle, you know my parents. What do you think will happen if they find out who my mother is?" he asked of her. Middle just bowed her head with a sad expression, knowing he'll probably be outcasted for having angel blood. Rias couldn't understand why Issei was so against meeting his relatives in the underworld. As much as she wanted to pry, she opted to let him open up to her when he's ready. "Oh, eyes. Tomorrow the clubroom will be getting its annual cleaning. Can we hold our club meeting at your house?" "Sure, I don't see a problem with that," he told her. "I'll even have some snacks ready." She thanked him and waited for the others to return. After everyone returned, they all went home. That night, Rias sneaked out her room to sleep in Issei's room, but she was surprised when all the other girls had was sleeping with him. She had planned to sleep holding him once more. Even though she sneaked in his room, she knew that he was aware of her presence. She looked at the arrangement and decided to sleep between him and Asia. The next morning, the girls woke up and saw that Issei was already getting ready for school and Rias was in his bed. After they were dressed for school, Kalawarner and Asia made breakfast for everyone. That day school was uneventful. No one had bothered Issei for most of the day until Ika Kiryu started to tease him during track and field. "Say, Hyodo, which girl are you dating?" she started to tease. "Or do you have them all for yourself? Or maybe you and the Prince Charming are already a couple?" "I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I'm not in any kind of relationship, and for the record, I'm not gay," he told her. The girls of the class smiled knowing that he was single, but some frowned wishing he was in a relationship with Kiba. The boys, on the other hand, knew that most of the girls wanted to be with him and wanted him to be in a real relationship with Kiba. "But if you want to go out with me, I'll take you to see the ocean on my motorcycle. I'm sure you'll like it," he teased her back. "Riding Ai's bike is fun." Asia spoke up. Ika shifted her glasses on her face before continuing. "I see, I might take you up on that offer someday." Issei was waiting at the school gate for Middle with Asia and Rainier. He saw Asia was a little sad. He decided to ask her what's wrong. "Eyes, will you really go on a date with Kiryu?" she asked him. "Only if she asked me, but I'm sensing that she has a power in her, maybe a sacred gear," he told them. "So will you make her into one of your servants as well?" Rainier asked him. "No, She should live her life normally, but if I do ask her and she says no, I'll erase her memory of the question and put a seal on her power to avoid the supernatural coming in contact with her. Yes, that should be her choice instead of being forced into the supernatural world, Asia said with a sad tone in her voice. Hyodo residence. Issei prepared some cookies and tea for the club members, but Kaneko brought her own bag of sweets. She was looking around Issei's living room when she saw his family's photo albums under the TV. She picked them up and everyone started to look at his childhood pictures. Rias was breathing hard at the pictures, stealing one of him getting out the bath and hid it in her shirt. Rias, don't steal my pictures, just use your magic to make a copy of it, Issei told her coming from the kitchen with Middle carrying tea and cookies. She pouted a bit knowing he was right. Yuto smiled at his master's reaction before seeing a picture on a different page. His smile faltered staring at the picture before him. Say eyes, can you tell me about this picture? He asked, staring at a picture of Issei and another kid playing handheld video game with a Western-style sword in the background. Issei walked over and looked at the photo, not noticing that Yuto was glaring at sword in the picture. That's an old friend of mine. When I had the seal on me I thought she was a boy. They moved to England a long time ago. He felt the hostility coming from Yuto as he told him about his childhood friend. Do you know about the sword in the picture? He asked. Not really, I never thought about it. Why is something wrong with it? It's a holy sword, he told Issei with hate in his voice. He closed the album and returned it to Issei with a fake smile on his face. Thank you, eyes. You just reminded me why I became a devil. Issei didn't know what to say to him. He just told himself that he'll tell Rias about his behavior later and sat down as they continued the club meeting. The next day they arrived at a newly cleaned building. The outside still looked the same but the inside was spotless. As they were walking, Asia noticed a door with a lock and signs that said, "Do not enter," plastered on it. What's that room? She asked. There's another devil that belonged to Rias in there, Issei told her. Really, I hope we get to meet her other devil someday, she said as they walked to the clubroom. Inside the clubroom, sitting on one of the couches, was Sona with Tsubaki and 6 other students standing behind her. I's glad you're here. Sona wanted to introduce you and your peerage to the rest of her peerage, Rias told him as he stepped into the room. Yes, I came to introduce my peerage to you and your peerage. Since you all already met Tsubaki, allow me to introduce the others, Sona told him standing in front of her peerage. These two are my bishops, Momo Hanakai and Rei Kusaka. As she said this, 2 girls stepped forward. Both were second-year students. Momo had long black hair with blue-green eyes and Rhea had long brown hair styled in 2 braids with brown eyes. My knight and rook, Tomo Meguri and Tsubasa Yura. Her knight had shoulder-length reddish-brown hair and brown eyes. Her rook also had shoulder-length hair, but her hair was blue, matching her eyes. She was a bit taller than the others with a tomboyish face. They were both second years as well. Nice to meet you, Hyodo. I saw your fight against Razor Phoenix and I have to say it was a wonderful match, Tsubasa told him. Thank you for your compliment. She turned her face away to hide the blush on her face. And these are my pawns, Ruruko Nomura. And before she could finish, a second-year male stepped forward as to say he can introduce himself. My name is Genshiro Saji, Kaichu's pawn, he started. Saji. Tsubaki tried to stop him from talking. I took up 4 pieces. What piece did you take up? Saji. I'm sure if someone like you can win against Razor Phoenix, I can defeat him as well. Saji. This time it was Sona who yelled at him. Did you not read the report I handed out? It states that Issei Hyodo is king and the 4 females are members of his peerage. She began berating him. Even if you're proud to that you took up 4 pieces, he is also part dragon. Don't presume you can defeat him easily. You must have a strong sacred gear if you took up 4 pawn pieces, Issei asked of Saji. Yes, I do. Stretch my line. As he said that, a small lizard with violet eyes appeared on his hand. Issei looked at it before speaking up. I see, so this is who wields part of him now, he said out loud. What do you mean? Sona asked, wanting to know what Issei knew about her pawn's sacred gear. He holds part of one of the former Dragon King Vritra, also known as the Prison Dragon, so he should train using what you know about Vritra, and if you add the other pieces of Vritra's soul to this one he'll become stronger, he told Sona. I see, thank you for your advice, eyes. May I ask how you know about this? Sona inquired. Yes, my uncle told me about him along with Diedrich and Albion, he told them before he started laughing. What's so funny? Rias asked him. I just remembered why Diedrich and Albion started their fight. Oh, do tell. I'm sure everyone would like to know why the 2 great heavenly dragons started their fight in the middle of the Great War. They were fighting for the right to mate with Tiamat, and I'm sure if you ask them they don't remember why the fight started so long ago, he told them. So you're saying that two powerful dragons started a fight like high school boys over a girl? Akano asked. Issei just smiled and nodded his head before turning to Saji. Since you now hold a dragon, you'll have the dragon affection, he told him. What do you mean? Saji asked. To put it simply, you'll attract women, but you'll also be challenged by those who wish to prove they are stronger than a dragon. Issei paused as he saw two of the girls in Sona's peerage already blushing. I see you already have the attraction of women. Saji looked at Sona, but she wasn't paying him any attention. I see you are unaware of the ones that desire your affection, he said to Saji, who looked at him with confusion. The other pawn stepped forward. She was a short petite girl in the first year. She had long brown hair styled in twin ponytails with a pair of green clips to keep the bang out of her face and also bring out the color of her green eyes. She stepped forward and whispered to Issei. Thank you for telling Saji that. Maybe now he'll notice us instead of trying to get with Kaichu. She smiled as she stepped back to stand with the rest of Sona's peerage. It was a few hours after Sona and her peerage left the clubroom, and now they were hunting a stray devil. Issei noticed since Yuto saw the picture of the holy sword, he started acting as if he was always somewhere else, always lost in thought. That night held true. If Calawarner didn't jump in to attack the stray, Kaneko might have been badly injured. After the stray was killed, they were about to leave. Slap. Did that wake you up? You've been acting weird lately, tell me what's wrong. Rias asked with worry and concern in her eyes. I'm sorry, Bucko, it won't happen again, he told her with bow. As he turned to walk away, she grabbed his hand to stop him. I don't know how to help you if you don't tell me the problem. I just remembered why I chose to become a devil instead of choosing death. If you'll excuse me, I'll be going home now. With that he left as everyone looked at him go. Rias, this may be nothing, but I noticed that he's been acting weird ever since he saw a picture of a sword yesterday. He said it was a holy sword, he told her. I see there's something you should know about Kiba. I'll tell you when we get home. Hyodo residence. Issei and Rias was currently drinking tea at the dining table as she tell him about Yuto Kiba's past. Kiba was part of a church project called the Holy Sword Project. The goal of the project was to allow ordinary followers into wielders of one of the Excalibur swords. She paused and looked at Issei, who was drinking his tea and listening intently at her words. After the original Excalibur was broken long ago, the church found out that some humans are born with a natural ability to wield holy swords. But the ones born to naturally wield one of the Excalibur fragments was even lower. A few years ago they started the Holy Sword Project. They took children from orphanages associated with the churches and experimented on them. But the experiment ended in failure and the head of the experiment killed the children. Yuto somehow escaped and I found him in the snow dying, and that's when I revived him as a devil. I see he probably wants revenge for what was done to him and his friends. I hope he doesn't steer his anger for revenge in the wrong direction, he told her. What do you mean by steering his anger for revenge? Well, most people who seeks revenge would go for the person that caused them the pain. From what I noticed, he's looking at the sword as if it's the cause for his misfortune instead of the person in charge of the project. I see, so he might go after the sword instead of the one who headed the project. Yes, and if he goes up against an Excalibur fragment, he'll lose, Issei told her. Streets of Ko. Kiba was walking the streets with nowhere to go. He didn't feel like going home. He was just walking without a destination in mind. He was about to go around a corner when a priest fell in front of him with his right hand reaching for Yuto. He was about to say something to Yuto, but he was cut off when a blade pierced his back. Yuto saw the one who stabbed the downed priest. It was a young man with white hair dressed as a priest. The young man pulled the sword out of the fallen priest and saw Yuto. Well, well, well. Look what we have here, the young priest started. I'm out here hunting a priest and I found a devil. Now stay still so I can kill you with my sword Excalibur. Yuto got in a battle stance and readied a sword out of nowhere to fight the priest. The priest saw this and also readied for a fight. You think a devil like you can defeat me? The great exorcist freed Selzen. After I kill you I'll find that boy who defeated us over a month ago. The now named priest yelled at Yuto. To think the object of my hatred would appear right in front of me. Yuto stated with a disdain in his voice. I will destroy all Excaliburs, Yuto yelled as he dashed towards Freed. Freed had a disgusting smile on his face as he parried Yuto's sword. Yuto was getting frustrated for not getting a hit on Freed. Yuto watched as his sword was shattered. He materialized another but still unable to get a hit on Freed. You'll never hit me. I have Excalibur rapidly, it makes me move super fast, and your shitty demon swords can't defeat my Excalibur, Freed told him while laughing maniacally. Every sword Yuto materialized was destroyed by Freed. During the battle a small magic circle appeared next to Freed's ear. Right now, But I'm about to kill a pretty boy devil. Freed started talking to Magic Circle, but I want to kill him. Okay big boss. Freed then look at Yuto. I guess we'll have to dance another day handsome. With that said, Freed threw a flash grenade and disappeared, leaving Yuto and the dead priest alone. It was the day after and Yuto didn't show up in school that day. The atmosphere in the clubroom was an uncomfortable one. It was quiet. Kaneko, Asia and Middle was sitting on the couch. Rias was sitting behind her desk staring blankly at a stack of papers. Akano was in the back room with Calwarner teaching her how to make tea. Rainier was talking to Issei about improving Asia's angelic powers in secret when his phone rang. Hello mom, how are you? Issei said through the phone. Fine, we just landed back in Japan, we're on our way home and I have a surprise for you, his mother told him. Okay, I'll meet you home with the other girls, so you can meet them. Yes, I'm interested in the girls that tried to take you away from me. Even though she said that, Issei knew she was smiling on her end of the call. Tokyo International Airport few minutes earlier. Mr. and Mrs. Hyodo had just landed in Japan. After getting their luggage, Mr. Hyodo left to retrieve their car. Mrs. Hyodo was standing waiting for her husband when she overheard two young girls Issei's age talking to each other. So Irina, since you used to live here, I assume you know where we are heading. A young girl with chin-length blue hair with a green fringe on the right side and dark yellow eyes asked her companion, who had long light brown hair, tied in twin ponytails and violet eyes. Both were dressed in white cloaks with hoods, but the blue-haired girl had what appeared to be carrying something wrapped in cloth on her back. Yes, Zenobia, I know where we are going. It's my old hometown and I get to see my childhood friend once more. As she said that, she pulled out a photo and was walking. While looking at the photo, she bumped into Mrs. Hyodo and dropped the photo in front of her. As the young girl apologized to Mrs. Hyodo bent down to pick up the photo to return it to the young girl, but surprise adorned her face when she saw the photo, and she looked at the young girl with a loving smile. Irina Shido, she asked of the young girl. Yes, that's me, but I must say I don't know you, Irina said to her with a questionable look on her face. Have you gone so long you forgot the mother of your childhood friend? Mrs. Hyodo. Irina said in shock. Yes, it's me. Eyes will be surprised when he sees you, she replied with a hug. I can't wait to see him again. This is my partner Zenobia. We both are here on an assignment in Co, she told her. Well, my husband went to retrieve the car. Why don't you ride with us? I'll have to call Eyes. He remodeled the house and is now living with 5 girls. I met one before and I have yet to meet the other 4, she told them. As she said that, Irina's eyes started to water. She couldn't believe her childhood friend, the boy she secretly loved since they were kids, was a pervert who had other girls in his life. Irina stood silent next to Zenobia as Mrs. Hyodo was on her cell phone talking to Issei. She pouted at the thought of her childhood friend with other girls in his life. When Mrs. Hyodo finished her call, she smiled at Irina and told her that he'll be waiting home with the girls. Irina was angry but didn't want to show it. Old school building. Issei ended his call and turned to face everyone in the clubroom. I'm sorry Rias, but my parents are on the way home and would like to meet the girls, so if you don't mind we'll be going home early. That's fine, I might not return tonight, I have some things to think about. I'll speak with them tomorrow. Kaneko, you can go home as well. With that said, the only ones left were Rias and Akano. Issei and his girls were walking home with Kaneko. Even though Kaneko never showed emotions this time, everyone could tell that she's sad. Kaneko, what's wrong? Asia asked her. I'm worried about Yuto. I don't want him to leave Buckow's family, she replied. I'm sure that he won't and will come back after he clears his head, Rainier told her. Thank you, and I hope he returns as well. I'll be going now, this is my street. After she told them that, she left them alone. Issei and the girls were now preparing dinner for his parents' return from their trip. Everything was almost done when he heard a car pull up to the house, but he also felt 2 strong auras along with his parents. He knew his parents were safe because after he reawakened his powers, he put a spell on them to tell him if they were ever in trouble or anyone around them wished them harm. These 2 auras he felt close to his parents weren't hostile or meant to do his parents harm, they were just there. Issei wondered why he didn't feel it close to his parents until now. Issei dropped the barrier around the house and opened the door and saw his parents and 2 young girls giving of the aura he was feeling. Issei was helping his parents with their luggage but was also looking at the 2 girls who was with them. The blue-haired girl was eyeing him, wary of his actions. The brown-haired girl was smiling at him. He felt a sense of familiarity towards her. As they entered, the girls stood in line, standing next to each other to greet Issei's parents. After their introductions, Issei's parents introduced the 2 girls that accompanied them. Eyes, I'd like you to meet these girls, Zenobia and Irina. His mother introduced them to him. Irina. Irina Shidu, it's so good to see you again. With that said, Issei hugged his childhood friend as his mother smiled at the reunion of friends. As they entered, Issei noticed that Zenobia was eyeing him and his peerage as though she would attack them at any moment. He also what she had on his back giving of a holy aura. The same aura that came from Irina's arm. He saw that Rainier, Middlet and Calawarner were weary and Asia felt something was wrong but didn't know what it was. Issei showed his parents to their room and also gave them a tour of the house. His parents were quite pleased and his mother loved the rooftop garden. His father loved the library along with the indoor bath and pool. As they were walking, Issei started talking to Irina as his peerage stayed in the kitchen to prepare dinner. Irina, what brings you back to Japan? He asked her. We're on assignment from the church, Zenobia answered, looking at Issei suspiciously. She felt that he was not completely human along with the other 4 girls in the house. She also felt a faint presence of devils in the house and wondered if Irina felt it too. I see, that means you'll be going to the old church on the hill. Issei started. I think I saw a white-haired priest was there a few weeks ago. He replied to her, hinting he knew what she was talking about. Really, Issei? No, we're childhood friends. I'll call you Eyes again. But can you tell me more? Irina said as she held onto his arm. Sure I will, but the 2 of you will have to stay for dinner and we'll talk after dinner, he told her. Issei's mother sat at the table looking at the girls, while his father was smiling with glee. I can't believe my son is fulfilling my dream and creating a harem. I'm so happy, his father said with tears in his eyes. He received a plate to his head thrown by his wife. Now girls, explain to me how you met my little Eyes, his mother inquired. Well, after Asia here escaped from our kidnappers, she found Eyes. Calawarner started. This caused Zenobia to look at Asia as if she knew who she was. Yes, I met Eyes when I first entered town, and when I ran away I told him what happened and he told the police and they rescued everyone else, Asia told them. Issei smiled, thanking that the lie was working. He never wanted to use magic on his parents unless it was necessary. I see, so why didn't you girls return to your families? Mrs. Hyodo asked. We're all orphans. No one would miss us if anything happened, and Issei told us we can stay here, Rainier in her Yuma form answered. And what about you, Kala? Why is a grown woman like you here as well? I too was an orphan when I was younger, and even though I had job I was kidnapped, and when I returned no one cared I was gone and I lost my apartment. Eyes gave me a room and a new job at his school, Calawarner told her. Yes, he is friends with that red-haired girl. He told me she also lives here. Eyes, what was her name again and where is she? His mother asked. Her name is Rias Gremory, and she has a family emergency and couldn't be here tonight, but she told me she'll greet you properly tomorrow. As he said the name, Irina coughed a little and stared at him. I see. Well, I don't see a problem with you girls staying here. I trust my son and his judgment, so I'll allow you all to stay. Honey, do you have anything to say? She told them and asked her husband. Yes, I do, he started while standing in his spot. My son, it may be difficult, but I know you will be happy and I'm glad. I have so many daughters that my son has. Ouch, his father was cut by another plate to his head thrown by Mrs. Hyodo. How many times have I told you? Our son is not a pervert like you. She then looked at the girls at the table. Forgive my husband, he's been trying to push his perverted dreams on our son for years. Even though we always wanted a sister for Eyes, we'll treat you all as our own, she told them. After dinner, Issei took Irina and Zenobia down to the training room along with Middlet and Calawarner. Asia and Rainier was upstairs cleaning up after dinner. Irina, the same way I can sense an aura around you, I can only assume you can sense an aura around me as well, right? He asked her. Yes, even though I sensed your aura, I know you're still the same Eyes I knew as a kid, she told him. That is partly true. I think I should tell you since we're old friends. I'm not human. He started telling them about how he came to human form, but not the fact he was part angel. He told them about the seal he placed on himself and it being broken and him being part devil. He knew they'll figure it out since he was friends with Rias Gremory. So if the seal wasn't broken, you would have remained human until you died? Irina asked him. Yes, I'll still be human, marry and have children, but I'm guessing they would have been born with a bit of my power sealed in them as well, he told her. So I could have married Eyes. No, I can't marry him now, he's part devil. This must be a trial given to me by God. Dear Lord, please guide me and save the soul of my friend and forgive him for his trespasses, she said while praying. And what of these who strayed from the light of God? Why are they with you? Zenobia asked, looking at Middlet and Calawarner. I have made them into members of my peerage, and they follow me and I protect them. I see you even made the witch Asia Argento into a devil as well. She must be struck down for falling so far from grace, Zenobia stated while gripping what appeared to be the handle of the package on her back. This statement infuriated Issei as he stood up where he was seated in the training room. Don't you dare call her a witch. I know what happened, and if you ask me, the church is in the wrong, he shouted at Zenobia. You dare claim the church was wrong? I should strike you down where you stand for making that claim. Tell me something. Doesn't your Bible teach forgiveness and be kind to others? So if she unknowingly healed a devil, whose fault is it? It's her fault for healing a devil. If she was the holy maiden of the church, shouldn't the church have protected her and kept devils away from her? She gave her all to the church and your God only to be discarded for one mistake. That wasn't her fault. If she wasn't protected from the devil, that means her faith in God wasn't strong enough and her belief was broken, Zenobia rebutted. Calm down, Zenobia. We're not here for Asia. We have a mission and must stay on track, Irina told her companion to prevent them from fighting. You're right, we have to stay on mission. We need to get to the church and meet up with our contact and meet with the devils in this area, Zenobia told them. Eyes, you said you know Rias Gremory. Is it the same Gremory from the 72 Pillars? Irina asked him. Yes, she and a member of the Citri clan are in this area, he told them. Thank you for that information. We'll now take our leave. It was nice to see you again, Eyes. Even though you're a devil now, when you're ready to be judged, come find me and I'll save your soul, Irina told him with a smile. That night they all slept in their own rooms, and before Issei went to bed he opened the mind link with Great Reed. Hey Uncle Red, I have a feeling I might have to deal with another problem. He started talking to the dragon god. What makes you say that? The dragon god asked. Just a hunch. Anyways, I found something the same time I found Diedrich, but I can't make it myself. What is it you found? A paper the leader of fallen angels wrote. I was thinking of turning what he wrote into reality, but I'm having trouble of mixing my energies to create 2 swords for my knights when I get them, Issei told him. Why don't I just create them for you? I am the embodiment of dreams. I can make it a reality, Great Red told him. Well, I was trying to see if I can do it myself before I asked you for help. I didn't want you to stop rolling around and having your fun. So do you want me to create the swords, or you want to keep trying? Yes, you can create them. What do you need from me? Issei asked. I'll need some of your blood, Great Red told him. Okay, I'll teleport over there. Issei teleported to the dimensional gap to meet Great Red, who was rolling right towards him. Okay, just show me the palm of your hand, Great Red told him. Issei showed Red his palm, and Great Red used one of his claws to draw blood from Issei. Great Red used Issei's blood to create 2 katanas with red blades, and the hilt was black and white in a swirling pattern. Issei held one of the katanas and was impressed. Your knights can use these to channel their powers. They'll still have their abilities, but I know how those knights like to use swords to battle, Great Red told him. Yay, I remember that match with Razor. His knights wanted a sword duel with Rias's knight. Anyways, thanks for the swords. I'll put them in my pocket dimension until I get my knights. After Issei told Great Red that, he teleported back to his room and went to bed, and Great Red went back to his rolling around. The next morning Issei woke up alone in bed. None of the girls slept with him. They all slept in their own rooms the night before. Issei was currently getting ready for school. After he got dressed, he went downstairs to have breakfast and saw Calawarner with his mother preparing breakfast for everyone. After breakfast they all left for school, leaving Issei's parents home. His father suggested his mother about enjoying the indoor bath. At the school, while everyone was attending class, Irina and Zenobia was met at the school gates by Sona and Tsubaki. During lunch, Issei, Rias and their peerages received messages from the student council to meet in the old building clubroom. In the clubroom, Rias sat behind her desk as Akano stood next to her. Sona was seated on one of the couches with Tsubaki standing behind her. Sitting across from them were Irina and Zenobia. Middlet and Kaneko was the last to enter the clubroom. Calawarner had to remain behind for a quick staff meeting. Irina pouted when she saw the girls of his peerage stand next to him and Asia holding his hand, trying not to be seen. So why are exorcists from the church wish to meet with us devils? Rias asked. We are on a mission. 3 of our Excaliburs were stolen and we tracked the perpetrators to this area of the world, Irina answered. Yes, the one who were responsible for the theft is a cadre member of Grigori. His name is Kokabiel. When Zenobia said this, she noticed that one member of Issei's peerage was about to whisper something to him. You their servant to Issei, Zenobia shouted as she stood up to face them. You all were once members of the Grigori. You know something, don't you? I'll have you tell me what you know. Anything I have to say is for my master eyes to hear first, Rainier replied. Zenobia was about to retort, but Irina stopped her. Now calm down, Zenobia. Eyes, if your friends have information that will help us, can you ask them to share with us? Irina asked him. Sure, anything for you, Irina. When Issei told her this, a slight blush appeared on her face. Rainier, if you or Middlet and Calawarner have any information on this matter that you'd like to share, please tell us now, Issei asked the two former fallen angels in his company. Yes, eyes. When we were captives we overheard Donasek talking to Freed about stealing holy swords. We never thought he was talking about the Excaliburs, Rainier told them. Do you know what their plan was with the swords? Issei asked her. No, we do not. That's all we heard. Thank you, Rainier. There you have it. He seemed to have another accomplice, Issei told them. Yes. Freed Selzen, the rogue priest, his whereabouts has been unknown for a few months now, Zenobia answered. Before we leave we must inform you that our superiors request that the devils in this area stay out of our way, Zenobia told them. Your superiors make it sound like we'll team up with fallen angels in this matter, Rias stated with a raised eyebrow. Even if these fallen turned devil are not associated with Grigori anymore, you can't deny that devils will gain if something happens to those swords, Zenobia stated. If 3 were stolen, what happened to the other 4? Issei asked. We have 2 with us, and the 3rd is being guarded in case we fail, Irina answered.
What happened to the 4th? Middlet asked. The last piece of Excalibur has been unknown for a long time. After the war, when Excalibur was broken into 7 pieces, they used alchemy to make 7 different Excalibur with different abilities. A few years after the sword's creation, one sword was stolen and it's been missing ever since. The one who stole it never used it, and if he passed it on, it's still unused, Zenobia told them. The Excalibur I hold is Excalibur Destruction, Zenobia told them as she placed her wrapped package now sword in front of her. And this is Excalibur Mimic. I can change its shape into anything I want. It's useful for carrying around. As Irina talked to them, a small ribbon that she took from around her arm turned into a katana. Sona, Tsubaki, Rias and her peerage had fear on their faces as they faced the 2 holy swords before them. Irina, I know he's your childhood friend, but we can't go around telling these devils the ability of Excalibur. So is it just you 2 they sent after Kokobile? Sona asked. Yes, we sent priest and exorcist into town secretly, but they kept getting killed, Zenobia told her. Is that why your superiors asked us to stay out of this matter? Rias asked. Yes, our superiors don't trust devils and fallen angels, even if you're the little sisters of the Maus, Zenobia told them. If you know that we're the sisters of Maus, that means you have very high clearance in the church. Then I'll let you know now. In the name of the Grimoire House, I will not form an alliance with the fallen angels that will tarnish the name of our Mao, Rias stated with a glare towards Zenobia. I'll let you know that the Citri House has the same feelings, Sona said. Irina, will you be receiving backup? Issei asked. No. After the death of the priest and exorcist, they sent us to this area, and if we should fail, the last Excalibur will be protected, Irina told him. 2 of you against a leader of the fallen angel who survived the Great War. Are you trying to die? Rias asked them. Yes. They both answered instantly. I have the same view as Irina, but if it's possible I don't want to die, Zenobia told them. The belief in your teachings is always so extreme. To think you came here prepared to die. Why is such a thing happening in my area? Rias said out loud. Don't talk ill of our beliefs. Zenobia started. Our superiors also decided it would be better to eliminate all of the Excaliburs than letting them get used by the fallen. Our main objective is to get the swords away from the fallen by any means necessary. To accomplish that, they sent Excalibur to fight Excalibur, even so it's okay for us to die. This mission is impossible for the both of you, Rias told her. Well, we won't die in vain, we have a secret weapon, Zenobia replied. Irina and Zenobia got up to leave when Zenobia stopped in front of Issei and his peerage. Even though we met at Issei's house, I never got a chance to talk to you. You are the former holy maiden known as the witch Ossia Argento, are you not? Zenobia asked Asia. Asia held onto Issei's hand for comfort. She knew that he'll never let anyone hurt her. Yes, I'm the former holy maiden, she answered. To think after you healed a devil you became a devil yourself. How far have you fallen, let me ask? Do you still believe in God? Zenobia asked her. Asia started to mutter. It's okay. I won't report this to our superiors. They'll be shocked if they knew that you became a devil. Even they will be shocked. Zenobia started. Let me ask you, holy maiden who fell to the lowest place, do you still believe in our God? Zenobia asked her. Zenobia. She's a devil. There's no way she can still believe in God, Irina stated. I can tell she still believe. There are people who betray the teachings but feel guilty. She has a familiar feeling I get from people who betrayed the teachings of God. Yes, I still believe. I believed in it my entire life. I can't just put it aside, Issei answered. Very well then, allow me to strike you down in the name of God. If I cut you down in the name of God, your sin will be forgiven by God, Zenobia told her as she removed the cloth from her sword. Zenobia held her sword with both hands. It had a cross in the pommel with an axe-like guard, a second grip with a chain and a long blade with 3 points at the end. It was Rainier who stepped in between Zenobia and Issei. How dare speak to her that way? If Issei didn't save her she would have died, and along with us, Rainier snapped at her. You are one of Issei's servant, another who has fallen from grace. I decided to fall, but you church members made her your self-proclaimed holy maiden after you found out she had a sacred gear, locked her away, no friends, no one to talk to, just parade her around when someone needs healing, and when the church allow a devil to get close to her you throw her out like it's her fault. Rainier was furious at Zenobia for wanting to kill Issei. They were both close after Issei saved them. You blame the church. How is it our fault that a devil got close to her? Zenobia asked. Issei told us about the devil that was after her, and how all his servants were former sisters of the church, so someone in the church must have made a deal with him to get her, Rainier told her. Issei gasped. She didn't know that there was someone like that after her. Sorry Issei told us and was gonna tell you after some time had passed, Midelt told her. It's okay, I know Issei won't let anyone harm any of us, Issei replied to her. You claim that someone made a deal with the devil. That person probably didn't believe in our teachings the same way she didn't believe. A holy maiden didn't need friends to talk to, all that she needed was faith in God, Zenobia retorted. God love her, if nothing happened her belief wasn't strong enough or her belief was fake. The church and their logic, I expect nothing less, Rainier told her. Is that a challenge to us? To members of the church? Big talk coming from a fallen turned devil. I will also strike you down. Soon as Zenobia said that, Yudo entered the room. It seems I have returned at an opportune moment, Yudo said out loud, carrying a sword with hate in his voice as he glared at Zenobia. And who might you be? Zenobia asked. Your senior, but I was labeled a failure, he replied with a smirk, with countless demonic swords appearing in the clubroom. Everyone was standing outside behind the old school building. A barrier was in place to prevent what was about to transpire be seen by outsiders. Irina and Zenobia took off their white robes and were wearing black battle-purpose clothes. They weren't showing their skins but looked erotic. The curves of their bodies could be seen. It will be interesting to test the strength of Rias Grimori and Issei Hyodo's servant, also to test the strength of my so-called senior, Zenobia stated. Even if it's just a match, be careful of those holy swords, Rias warned them. It was a match that Zenobia accepted to Yudo's challenge. She also asked that this match not be reported to the church. Yudo activated his sacred gear and demonic swords appeared around him. He then started to laugh. To think the thing I want to destroy appeared right in front of me. I heard that dragons have an attraction. I'm glad I was around Issei that he attracted those swords this early, Yudo said out loud while laughing. Sword birth. The possessor can create any demonic sword they imagine in their head. It's unique among sword-related sacred gears. So you're the subject I heard that avoided being disposed of by the Holy Sword Project? Zenobia asked him. Yudo didn't answer. He picked up one of his swords and dashed straight towards Zenobia. Eyes. When I met the boy that I haven't seen for so long, and found out he was a devil in hiding, I was shocked. This definitely a trial given to me by God. This is a harsh destiny that has befall two childhood friends. I will strike down all temptation of the flesh that surrounds you before I give you judgment, Irina told Eyes with a depressed tone in her voice. She then turned to face her opponent Rainier. Rainier had dropped her Yuma disguise and stood before Irina in her fallen angel form holding her pink light spear as if it was a staff. Rainier. Issei shouted, having both girls looking at him. No flying, he told his pawn. She nodded at him before facing Irina. Irina pouted at the interaction between Issei and his pawn. She lunged at Rainier, bringing her sword in a downward slash. Rainier blocked the sword with her light spear and pushed Irina back. Rainier jumped back and threw two light spear at Irina and formed another staff of light. Irina dodged the first light spear and parried the second. Rainier went for her legs, trying to get her off balance, but Irina's footwork was unbreakable. Rainier was trying to push Irina back, but it wasn't working. Irina back flipped and transformed her sword into a whip, and as she landed she cracked the whip and it wrapped around Rainier's hand. Irina pulled Rainier towards her. Rainier used her wind magic to spin Irina around. The whip transformed back into a sword as Irina landed on her feet. Irina transformed her sword into a shield and rushed straight at Irina. When she got close, the shield turned it back into a sword. She got within Rainer's reach. Even though she stabbed her in the arm, she felt a pain in her leg. She looked down and saw that she got injured with a light spear in the leg. After the match, they both went to Asia and got healed. Irina admitted it was a draw and everyone watched as Zenobia and Yudo continued their battle. Yudo had a sword in each hand, one of fire and one of ice. With each swing of his sword it caused a whirlwind of fire and ice. Yudo was using his knight's speed to attack, but Zenobia was blocking and dodging his every attack. Using the speed of knights, our reports on the evil peace system is true, but you are naive to come at me with demonic swords, Zenobia told Yudo. This caused Yudo to jump at her in a blind rage. Ka-ching! A single swing of her sword destroyed both of his swords. Yudo couldn't believe his eyes. He was stunned for a moment as he saw his demonic swords shatter in a single swing. My sword is a mass of destruction. There is nothing it can't destroy, Zenobia stated as she swirled it around in the air before thrusting it into the ground. Boom! The ground shook and a crater was formed with Zenobia and her sword at the center. Everyone almost lost their balance due to the ground shaking. This is my Excalibur. It can destroy anything that come its way. It's not called Excalibur for nothing, Zenobia told Yudo, pointing her sword at him. Such destructive power. I can see my path to destroy all seven to be a difficult one. Yudo's eyes held hatred in them. The destructive power of that holy sword or the destructive power of my demonic sword? Let's see which one is stronger. Yudo created a gigantic sword and held it with both hands. The sword was releasing an ominous aura. It was bigger and longer than Yudo's height. Yudo swung the sword with force. The slash reached Zenobia. She sighed in disappointment. Gachin. The sound of metal. A large fragment of Yudo's sword went up in the air. Zenobia's Excalibur easily destroyed his demonic sword. It's a shame. You made the wrong decision. Your sacred gear is a variety of swords you can create in compliance with your speed. You would need a lot strength to swing a gigantic sword like that. You replaced your speed and technique for destructive power. I can tell if you had not replaced your fighting style you would have stood a chance. Yudo tried to rush at her and create another sword. Zenobia saw this and hit him deep in the stomach with the pommel of the holy sword. A simple move like that created a shockwave and tossed Yudo across the ground. Yudo got on his knees and hand as he started vomiting blood. Zenobia glared at him and turned around. Yudo tried to speak and reach for her, but everyone knew that the match was over. After the damages was fixed by Akino and Tsubaki, the barrier was dropped. Senior, I suggest that you fight with a cool head next time we fight. Rias Grimori, Sona Citri, I trust you with the talk from earlier. Also, you should train your servants a bit more. Issei Hyodo, your servants appeared well trained to match Irina. I was surprised it ended in a draw, Zenobia told them. Yes, but to be at the mercy of a devil to receive healing, even if it's the former holy maiden. Please God forgive me for receiving aid from a devil, and your light show me the path I must walk. Irina started praying, making the devils around her uncomfortable. Yudo glared at Zenobia with hatred. She ignored him as she looked at Issei. I don't know if you're strong enough, but I will tell you something. Since you're part dragon, the White Dragon Emperor has emerged, and rumor is that he's a battle maniac. I already knew that he awakened and waiting for the match between him and I, Issei told her. Eyes, can you defeat him? Irina asked with concern in her voice. I'm not sure, but I won't know until we fight. Zenobia started to pick up her stuff to leave. Irina saw this and also picked up her stuff to catch up to Zenobia before she turned around to speak to Issei one last time. Eyes, don't forget to tell me when you want to be judged. She held her cross and winked at Issei before leaving the scene. Sona and Tsubaki also left, leaving Rias and Issei with their peerage. Stop, Yudo. I won't forgive you if you leave me. You are a knight to the House of Grimori. I will also be in trouble if you turn into a stray, Rias shouted at him. That day I was able to escape thanks to my friends. That's why I put their regrets into my demonic swords. After saying that, he left. Thanks for watching, guys. Part 3 is over. Hope you all enjoyed. If you like this video, please do like, share, comment and subscribe.